So a lot of the times growing up, the people I would talk to in my church would be like, if you believe in the theory of evolution, you do not believe in God. But my argument was, what if evolution is a course created by God?
Yeah.
Like God starts the spark, lights the fuse, and as it burns, like a bomb when you see in the cartoons when it's burning down this long thing. What if that is the pathway of creation by God, that things would evolve over time to suit the needs of the species?
Right.
But I guess in their mind, they're like, any creature currently alive on this planet right now, God was literally like platypus, giraffe, gorilla, and that's it.
All right, welcome back to Mildly Alarmed. I'm one of your hosts, Nina Likes, here with my co-host, Justin Bullock. And we've got something a little different for you this week. We're officially launching our 3-segment format. So however you found us, welcome. Each week, we're going to basically break the show into 3 separate segments, and we'll release them together as one big podcast, and then separately as little 30-minute segments, so you can follow us however you like. This week on what we're now calling Make It Make Sense, which is going to be our political and cultural segment. We're getting a little personal again, talking about our own journeys with religion and politics and how we got to where we are today. It's the first part of a bigger conversation we're going to be having next week as well about Christianity, Donald Trump, and the Republican Party. So you're going to want to stick around for that one too. On segment 2, which we're calling Side Quests, we're going to talk about video games that meant the most to us over the years, the ones that we keep coming back to no matter what. And on From the Pits, our little NASCAR segment at the end, we're covering everything happening at Bristol Motor Speedway this week. New episodes of Mildly Alarmed will be available every Tuesday at 6 a.m. on Spotify, YouTube, and YouTube Music. But first, Justin, how was your week this week? How you doing?
This week was tough. I don't know why. I don't know. I just come off of a bit of a break and had some time off, and I don't know if that contributed to it. But this week was like harder, and it was shorter than like a normal week because I didn't return to work until Tuesday. But man, what a slog! What a slog! Yeah, it was a tricky one. It was a rough writing week. Stuck. Just not sure. I didn't write anything, actually. I tweaked a few things. I think I told you that there was an ending of a chapter where I completely cut it and rewrote it. And, but I didn't move on any forward. I didn't advance the ball. I didn't write anything new. Just didn't feel motivated. I didn't kickbox as much as I typically do. It was a really tough, tiring week. What about yours?
Yeah, I think I felt the same vibe. I don't know about you, but the week started with that Trump tweet about how he was going to destroy an entire civilization on Tuesday night.
Oh my God, that was this week.
Yeah, I think that's what really set us both on the bad path, because I feel like I had so much anxiety on Tuesday.
Me too.
Because I was like, is this lunatic now crazy enough to start World War III and wipe out an entire civilization? And I could not decide, which frightened me. I was like, I don't know if his is one of his idle threats or if he's actually legitimately considering murdering millions of people. And that really just gave me so much anxiety. So it just set the tone for the week.
Yeah, me too. I forgot that was actually this week, just because the news cycle is what it is.
Yeah.
Isn't that like crazy that we kind of already moved on from that news-wise, that the president of the United States woke up on Easter and had kind of started threatening that we were
praised Allah.
Praise Allah on Easter. What was it, Monday night into Tuesday, or was it Tuesday morning? He was like, we're gonna decimate this civilization completely. Like I think
it was died tonight, so I want to say it was
tonight.
Tuesday morning.
Like Tuesday night was the night that was supposed to be the thing, right? Because it was Tuesday, and people were saying he was going to Taco Tuesday.
Correct.
So
yeah,
no, that was crazy. That was crazy. And I like you, all day long was checking my phone, just seeing anything I could find on that. And I was really stressed out like all that day because I did not want that to happen. And I didn't know like what that meant. Like I was thinking like, in my mind, the only thing I knew that you could do to annihilate people was to use a nuke. But I was like, there's no way that would happen, right? We would not do that, right? And it kind of just, it really did stress me out. It did set the tone for, I think, kind of the week. But then the relief of finding out that we weren't going to be doing that, but also then seeing the 10-point plan and how we basically had lost the war?
I don't think there was a way for us to win the war, but I suppose we'll probably
Well,
get
it's
more
not a
into that.
war. It's a operation. It's an escapade. It's an excursion.
Yeah.
It's a
A
trait.
jaunt.
A jaunt. Yeah.
Yeah. Casual glide over to Iran.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. That really did set the tone for me this week because I just felt like I couldn't get anything done on Tuesday because it was just like in my brain the whole day. And I, like you, was checking my phone to be like, is there a plan yet?
It did feel like something bad was. Did it not feel like it? Just there was something in the air, at least for me and the people I was around that day. It did just feel like something bad could potentially happen, but I
Yeah.
wasn't sure what it was. But all I knew, I was really worried that there was going to be a huge loss of life, and I didn't want any of it. But it
Yeah.
was also helpless because what can I do? So I was just sitting there waiting to see what we were going to do and feeling horrible about whatever that was going to be.
Yeah. So we'll probably get into this later, but I have a bachelor's degree in political science and human rights. So the idea that we were going to commit war crimes and potentially a genocide on Tuesday evening was a little bit much for my brain to handle.
Yeah.
But we didn't. So there's that. I mean, doesn't discount the fact that lots of people have still died.
Yeah.
And we did this for no good reason I can find. Again, we'll probably get into that section of it more next week. But this week, I think the thing that sparked the conversation this week was because you and I have a lot of political and religious conversations on the side in our own personal lives. It was really thinking about how people could claim to be good Christians, but also support the mass murder of people in another country, or even, support our own soldiers just risking their lives for not clearly stated goals. So in thinking about that conversation, I think we got back to the idea of like, well, let's track our own personal journeys first. Let's go back and think about how we got to where we are with politics and religion. So let's go back to like when we were kids first.
Let's.
Like what do you remember first about growing up and the role that religion played in your life?
It was huge. It was massive. Growing up, I grew up a Southern Baptist here in Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina, and it was a huge part of our upbringing, me and my sister both. As for me, generationally, we all went to the same church. My grandma went there. My mom went there. My dad wasn't religious. He didn't go to church, but it was very much something that Mom forced us to do. But at the time, it seemed normal. It just seemed like something you did growing up here in North Carolina, Fuquay. Everyone I knew went to church. I didn't really know any kids that kind of didn't. That would have seemed weird. It would have been, that would have just been off. But I went to school with a lot of the same people that I also went to church with. So it was just a very kind of normal thing that you kind of just did, was just go to church. And we were always there. We were actually front row Baptists. We were right there on the second
Is that a particular designation?
Yeah, we were front row Baptists. We weren't the back row Baptists. I mean, we were front and center. My grandma sat there on the second row. I sat with her, and my mom sang in the choir. We were involved. We would go to church on Wednesday night to do choir practice. I was in the choir. My sister was in the choir, youth groups, and that sort of thing. So it was very much a part of our weekly routine. And all of my family members were religious. It was a huge part of my childhood and memories was being at church. And my kind of community around me were all church people. I didn't really, other than school, I didn't talk to anybody else other than the church.
Was your dad not going to church a source of conflict, or was it just kind of accepted when you were a kid?
It was a source of conflict. So Sundays he would go play golf, which he played golf all the time. But he was a huge golfer. He'd rather be doing that than anything else, including hanging out with me. But so he would go play a ton of golf, and Mom would take us to church and those kinds of things. But he didn't go. And, I remember Mom talking about that when we were young, about just, your dad doesn't go to church and you don't want to end up like him.
In what sense?
He's going to hell in a handbasket. He's going to hell in a handbasket. You don't want to end up like him. He's no good son of a bitch. Doesn't go to church. He's that kind of thing. It was a very much a source of contention that he didn't go.
Interesting.
I'm thinking of a memory. I had a memory, like, because I believed it so strongly. This is going to sound funny, and I remember this. It's just one of those things that popped in my head. I remember one night, it was a big deal because Dad was going to be going to church with us, but it was like a Sunday night service. And I remember being at my grandma's for some reason, and he was picking us up. And I remember him coming to pick us up. And as he's putting us in the car, he like cuts his hand on something, like slices his hand like open, like across the palm here. And there's lots of blood. And I remember thinking, because my grandma said something, I think it was my grandma who said it. She was like, that must be Satan trying to keep him from going to the church because he's injured his hand, and now we have to stop, and we're going to be late for the service because we have to figure this palm injury out. And I remember her telling me, you see that, kids? That was Satan. Satan did that.
Interesting.
So that your dad wouldn't go, because Satan's afraid that your dad going to church is going to make him religious all of a sudden. That was Satan. I remember that.
So we've gotten Satan in hell already.
Yes.
A few times in this conversation.
Listen, you can't talk about being Baptist without talking about Satan in hell. You can't do it.
That's just a part of going to church as a Baptist?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How so?
It's what it's all about, man. It's like if you don't adhere to the rules, man, fire and brimstone, going to hell. Going down there will be Beelzebub. Yeah. So
how long did you go to church, like, continually?
Too long. It was probably from the moment I was born to college.
Okay.
But in college, though, like, I was probably 22, 23 when I stopped going regularly, maybe younger than that. Long time. Over 20 years, one could easily say. Over 20 years.
Okay. Yeah, I did not make it that long, but I also didn't really grow up in the same way. So you were raised down here. I was raised in Connecticut.
Right. You heathens up there in Connecticut.
Yeah.
What's it like growing up with all them sinners?
So I grew up in a family that was Catholic for the most part, but my mom went to Catholic school. She eventually decided to convert and become Protestant at one point. So I'm technically baptized Protestant. So I kind of grew up Protestant in a family of Catholics, which was interesting because I think I heard a lot of both. And like Northern Protestant is definitely not Southern Protestant. Like Northern Protestant, you still cared about the Pope for some reason. There was just like, I think Catholicism was so prevalent in the North for some reason, or potentially just in my family. But I felt like I just ran into a lot of Catholics that eventually they kind of just merged and commingled to the point where you got like a little bit of various flavors of Christianity a lot. And we went to some different churches. Like we went to a Protestant church. I think at one point we went to a Universalist church.
What is a
Universalist or Unitarian church? Or one of them.
What is that?
They're all flavors of Protestant for the most part. They're still very much about like the book and not the institution like Catholicism is. So, but I stopped going when I was like 12. My mom asked me, do you want to keep going to church? And I remember telling her, no, I don't particularly like the way they treat women, and I don't really want to be a part of it anymore.
At 12?
At 12. So I don't know what flavor of Christianity I was going to at that particular time, but it was not the church that I grew up in. And I just remember there was a good vibe at the church I grew up in, which was this nice Protestant church in Bolton in Connecticut. The pastor there was great. But the whatever church we were going to later on, I just did not like for whatever reason, which was odd because I did like sing in the choir and things, which I enjoyed doing. So it's kind of interesting that I was still like, even though I enjoyed that so much, I'm like, nah, I just don't want to be a part of this anymore. And so I stopped going around like 12 or 13. And then I don't think I really ever went back. I found different forms of religion in college, mainly
that wasn't an option
Buddhism.
for us.
Yeah.
We didn't have the option of like, do you actually like this? Do you want to stop going? Would you rather do something else? Like that was not an option. I would have gotten in a lot of trouble for suggesting that, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe there's a better calling out there for me. I'm searching myself and I'm reflecting
But you
and
did
I'm just
question it, didn't you?
all the
What
time.
happened
I
when
got
you
in trouble.
did?
Like I don't know what it is about me, but my entire life, I have never been one to just, okay, what you say to me must be true. Maybe I have really bad trust issues. I don't know, but like back then, but I have never just been like 100% like, yeah, that must be it. So I questioned a lot of things that I was told, and more so out of curiosity. I like asking questions. You know
Yeah.
me, I like to talk to people, and I'm a curious mind anyway. I like to learn about things, I like to read about things, I like to hear people's stories and
Yeah.
interests. So, I would ask questions, which I thought were good questions, innocent questions. I got in trouble all the time for asking these questions. Like just stop asking, just because, just go in there because, just listen to them, it's Jesus and God, it's the truth. There's
Do you
no
remember any of the
questioning it.
questions?
No
Remember any of the
question. I
questions you
do.
asked?
Like I remember one that from a young perspective, I love dinosaurs. And so I remember asking a Sunday school teacher one time, where did the dinosaurs fit into the story? Because, God created the heavens and the earth and it happened in 6 days. Like, where do the dinosaurs fit into the story? I
That's
remember that
adorable.
was something I was really curious about. And then they gave me kind of a strange answer, though. They were like, oh, there's these things in the book called like behemoths or leviathans, and suggesting that perhaps dinosaurs coexisted with people, which we know is not true. We know that's
Mm.
crazy. But it was just more of that, like, the earth is 6,000 to 7,000 years old kind of theory, if you take it literally. But anyway, that was a question I would ask. And then I would ask about, like, if you have free will, if God knows everything you're going to do, then why do you also, have the free will to choose if it's already preordained or predetermined, or rather, I would ask things like that. And then, how could God allow terrible things to happen if he had the power to stop them? And why
Mm.
some people have really bad things happen to them, like get murdered. And they'd be like, well, having bad things happen to people getting murdered, it's all part of this. It's predetermined, and
Part of the plan.
it's part of the plan. There's a reason why these things happen. We just don't know the reason would be the answer. So yeah, I would question those kinds of things like all the time, just things that would enter into my brain and be like, wait a minute, I got a question about this. A lot of the times, that was frowned upon. Don't ask questions, just accept it as truth.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring up the dinosaurs because uh, I feel like down here, from just what I've gathered living in in South Carolina and then in North Carolina versus Connecticut, I feel like all of the religions that I encountered in Connecticut, all the flavors of Christianity up there were very like still pro science. And I think Catholicism has come around to that idea and the like newer generations of it too, where like those things can coexist and the Bible shouldn't be taken literally. But from what I've seen down here and from what you've told me in the past, it seems like the Bible is taken much more literally down
Yeah.
here than it is in the North.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I just remembered something that, like, it makes me laugh now, but the scandal that it was when we'd be in Sunday school and you're around the 8th grade, I think. My science teacher, Mr. Hyman, good dude, was started teaching The Theory of Evolution by Charles Darwin.
Of
And
course.
the scandal of what that was, and being told in Sunday school, like, the school has to teach you that, but it's not true. It's bollocks.
Did
Horse
they have a
shit.
reason why they would be teaching you something false?
Because it's all part of that secularism, It's the world's science and opinion, but it's not true. That's what the world wants you to believe. That's what school systems have to tell you.
To what
But we
end?
all know the truth. God created the heavens and the earth, and we lived with dinosaurs. And Jesus used dinosaurs, like the Flintstones would use the dinosaurs. No, yeah, I remember being told in Sunday school and things like that everything I was learning in school wasn't the truth. I was getting the
Weird.
truth at church. I wasn't getting the truth at school. But I had to play the game because that's what it was. But we didn't come from monkeys. We didn't come from monkeys. Which I think is always really funny to me. Like in their mind, there is, because I remember like having these conversations with like older people at church and trying to explain to them the theory of evolution and kind of like how that works. And I remember their argument was like, we didn't come from a monkey. But I would be like, well, it's not that there's a monkey sitting there that suddenly becomes a human. Like that's not how it works. That's not how it worked. There are many types of species of monkey. We just happen to be one of those along a line of changes and adaptations over a course of time. We didn't just, because they were like, well, how come, I got you question. How come gorillas don't turn into people? It's like, well, they're not going to. They're not going to turn into people.
I don't
They're
know.
gorillas.
If you look a gorilla in the eye, you can see the humanity there. I don't care who you are. Go look a gorilla in the eye.
Can I tell you something? One time I was at the zoo and I was sitting there. The gorillas I will be honest, kind of freaking me out because I almost look at them and I feel like they shouldn't be
behind bars.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's too close because I remember I was sitting there and I was watching a gorilla do like this. And I was like, hell, I do that 100 times a day. Just pick at my like fingers or like something like that. I'm like, I do that all the time. And I was watching a gorilla literally do that. And I was like, ooh, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this.
I feel that way too. This is a tangent, but I saw a gorilla at the South Carolina Zoo in Columbia, I think. And his name was Patrick, which is my cousin's name. And he was exactly my age. And what was really funny is that it was a really rainy day. So my ex and I were like the only two people there. And every time I would talk to this gorilla named Patrick, he would look at me and he would seem to have some interest in at least my tone of voice or whatever it was that I was saying. And then my ex would try to talk to him and he would look away. And he just had no interest in talking to my ex. And I just thought it was hilarious that like he had made a choice to listen to me for whatever reason and just had no interest in listening to this other person. And I was like, something about it. Something about that you can almost like see the intelligence.
Yeah.
And I don't
recognition.
know. It always just like, it freaks me out when people think that evolution isn't real because I feel like you can almost see it.
That gorilla is still out there and still wants to hear the sound of your voice. Please like and subscribe to Mildly Alarmed. That gorilla. No, yeah, it's funny how looking back on it, how the theory of evolution, and sometimes I feel like they call it that, like the theory of evolution, so that it doesn't have like because if something's a theory, then it's not quite proven. And I think they would always say that, the theory. They would say it with kind of like a tone. But I always thought it was funny, like debating things. Because wouldn't you agree, like this is, I know this is getting someplace else, but would you agree that adaptation and evolution are kind of the same? Like to adapt is almost also to evolve? Because I was talking to a dude, a conservative dude one time, and he was like, I believe in adapting, but I don't believe in evolving. So he was like, we can adapt, but we can't evolve. And I was like, what do you, like to me, they're similar. Like you can...
They are definitely similar.
Because evolution is just like adaptations over time. And then the species evolves to its needs.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think adaptations are more things that happen in the moment. Evolution, kind of like you said, is just like the process of incorporating those adaptations over time so that they're no longer adaptations. They're just part of the actual person.
That was a big debate in the Sunday schools. And of course I would get in trouble for that because I would debate on the side of evolution, like things can evolve. But my argument was that God didn't. So a lot of the times growing up, the people I would talk to in my church would be like, if you believe in the theory of evolution, you do not believe in God. Hard stop, period, dot. That's end of story. But my argument was, what if evolution is a course created by God?
Yeah.
Like God starts the spark, lights the fuse, and as it burnt like a bomb when you see in the cartoons when it's burning down this long thing. What if that is the pathway of creation by God, that things would evolve over time to suit the needs of the species.
Right.
But I guess in their mind, they're like, any creature currently alive on this planet right now, God was literally like platypus, giraffe, gorilla, deer, spiders. And that's it. Just dropping things like here and created everything. And that's it. Nothing changes.
Interesting. Because I feel like your description of evolution is more what we're taught in the North. That like God set the table.
Yeah.
And the pieces evolved on the board game of life.
Right. See, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, the things can coexist.
Yeah, things can coexist. It doesn't have to be this or that. But like in the church I grew up in, if you believe, first of all, you're an idiot because you think that you were a monkey who became a human being.
Just overnight.
But yeah, overnight. It just happened. What a moron for thinking that. Those science people are weird. But no, if you believed in the theory of evolution, you were basically saying that God is not in control and God is not real. Hard stop. There's what's in the Bible and that's it.
Literal
to hell with
translation.
You. To hell with you.
Yeah. Okay. So what caused you to stop going to church?
I had started, this would be around 2008. Obama has become president, starting to run for president. It's around that time, 2007, 2008. I'm going to college now, and I have, like I told you before, how it was. Do you remember when I said how it was weird that you would have been weird if you didn't go to church? Like everyone I was surrounded by went to church, like friends at school, they went to churches, and then I grew up in a church. So I had never met anyone who was my age who was openly against religion until I got to college. And I meet other people outside of my bubble. And it was when I started meeting other people outside of my bubble and having conversations that I realized what I kind of secretly always knew was that I grew up around some very weird people. So, having those conversations, opening my mind to new ideas, but also as I started the conversation, as Obama was running for president, I started hearing things that didn't sound right to me and that went against some beliefs that I held true that I also kind of learned from religion. I started hearing things that sounded a little racist, and I started hearing some, sermons started sounding more political from the pulpit. I started hearing from people talking about how Obama was the Antichrist, that
Interesting.
Religious freedoms were going to be taken away, that Obama was going to go to war with churches, with religion, because Obama was Muslim.
Which is not true.
Which is not true. We know that's not true. But they would say these things, and there was a fear. There was an intense fear. And you know what happens when people get afraid that they're going to lose something that means a lot to them? You know it can happen. It can be weaponized. And there was all that kind of going around. And I just saw some really crazy things. I heard some really crazy stuff from people that I had grown up around that had taught me. And I started to just think, you know what? I don't think this is the path I need to be around. I think these religious people that I grew up around could cause me harm down the road. Not like harm in a physical sense, but like this could be bad if I stay in this. I don't need to be in this. This is bad. And so I was like, I need to pull back. So I'm old enough to make my own choices, and then I decide that I'm not going to go to church. But I didn't just stop. I tried other things. I tried like churches where there was like a younger, non-denominational, where they would do the younger stuff and they played the harder rock music and the 7-Eleven songs. We called them 7-Eleven songs, like 7 verses, 11 choruses, those kinds of things. But I tried that for a bit, but eventually it was just, this isn't for me. I personally don't need to be around these folks to believe something. So I pulled back.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think to wrap this up, and we'll continue obviously in our conversation next week, but just to wrap up this part of the conversation, I think we should end on what lessons or what values or morals do you think that you did pull out of Christianity just yourself? Like what do you feel like it taught you that you maybe carried through into making like your political decisions?
Yeah. So, not for nothing, I pay attention. And so, I remember learning about Jesus. And I remember watching, I know you probably didn't grow up with this, but growing up a religious kid, there was always like religious VHS tapes. And we had one that was like done with puppets and cartoons and would tell Bible stories with like puppets and cartoons. And I remember having to watch this and enjoying it. But a lot of the stories that I learned about Jesus loved people, anybody. And Jesus's love was great. And he would go around performing these amazing miracles, and he would help people. And he was like almost, growing up a kid reading comics, Jesus was like a superhero. I mean, he had superpowers and he would save people and he would help people in need, loved everybody, didn't want wars, went into churches and turned over tables because they were doing shady things. I mean, he defied kings. He went up against tyrannical governments, the Romans, these kinds of things. Like, he was a superhero in my eyes and these kinds of things. So I took away just remembering like who Jesus was and what he called us to be, which was a good person, someone who cares about the rights of others and wants, the best for everybody. And I feel like that made me a Democrat at the time. When I was looking at going into college, it was like, if you looked at the two parties, there was clearly one that followed more of those principles than the other, at least in my eyes. There was one that we care about healthcare for all. Remember the Affordable Care Act during that time? That was something that was going on, which other conservatives looked at as something that was bad. Like, we're trying to provide healthcare for everybody, just we're trying to be more open. They were being more open. Gay marriage was big during those early 2000s. So there was one party that was kind of living these standards, I guess, or these ideals that aligned with what I believe personally that a Christian should be. And there was a party that did not, in my eyes. Does that make sense? I kind of felt like a rant, but that's kind of,
No, it
how
does.
I ended up there.
I think I obviously wasn't in it as long as you were, and I had a somewhat transition into Buddhism before, picking up the Bible again recently and rereading it. But I think of all the religions that I've been in, the things that I've taken from them are things like we should all have equal rights. We should all be caring for each other. Love thy neighbor was the thing that I got out of every single flavor of Christianity that I ever took part in. And in Buddhism, there are similar principles, just caring for others, taking care of the people around you, and living a life with a view not just of yourself and your neighbors, but of the whole world, and just wanting everyone planet-wide to be taken care of. And I think that's ultimately what led me to getting a degree in political science and human rights and to being a Democrat, though as someone who was raised in Connecticut, there was a 99.99% chance that I was going to be a Democrat anyway.
You never had a choice.
No.
That's interesting that I growing up made a political switch. You have not. You have stayed true to your political affiliation your whole life, whereas like me, as I grew older and started trying to figure out who I was and what I believed, what my moral code was, I made a switch. I was like, oof, this ain't for me, boys. And I had to make a change.
Yeah. I think I know we've talked about this a little bit before, but just growing up and in school, we were encouraged to take a look at the world around us and to act when we saw things happening that we thought were wrong. I remember protesting things that were happening in Darfur in high school because our teachers were like, we see that me and my group of friends are upset about that thing. What do you want to do about it? And we were like, we want to spread awareness. We want to write letters. We want to, we just want to do something. And so they would kind of facilitate that and allow us to follow those threads. So props to the Mansfield school system back in Connecticut, because they made me this way. But so did Christianity, and so did Buddhism and the things that I was studying at the time.
I'm trying to think what made me this way. Maybe Christianity, at the end of the day, maybe it did have a profound effect on me in a way, because I believed strongly that we should be like Jesus. And although I don't go to church anymore and I don't really follow it at all, I mean, maybe those lessons about Jesus all those years ago really did stick, because I'm trying to think what made me not smart enough. I don't know what made me want to leave.
Conscious enough.
Thank you. I was looking for that word. Thank you. Conscious enough to do that. Could have been college. I mean, like I said, I never escaped my bubble until I went there. So when you're in the bubble, even though I always had these things in the back of my mind, because I always had these things in the back of my mind, it was always almost like I was the problem. It was presented as I was the problem. I was the one who was getting in trouble. I was the stubborn one. I was the one who was pushing back against something that I shouldn't push back against. It was wrong to do what I was doing. It was wrong to question. It was wrong to learn. But when I got outside the bubble, I realized that everyone inside that bubble, they were strange. because the rest of us, the world outside of that, was like, no, these are very normal things of what you're doing. You are questioning is a very normal thing. There's nothing wrong with that. Like learning is the appropriate thing.
College was validating for the fact that you were seeking knowledge and you could actually find some answers there.
Yeah, because I spent a lot of my childhood feeling like I was wrong. There was something wrong with me. I was being the problem. And in college, the people I knew in college, the teachers I knew in college, they kind of reaffirmed it. Like, no, like they're the ones who are in the minority. But so maybe that had something to do with it. Getting outside that bubble, for sure.
Well, I think that's a good place to leave it for this week, and we can pick it up again next week with some discussion of the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, our favorite dear leader, Donald Trump, and just how we feel our values have led us in the current political climate and how we can make sense of how Christianity is leading others as well. This is where we talk about everything we've been reading, watching, playing, and falling down rabbit holes with this week. Today, we're going to talk about our personal favorite video games, those ones that keep us coming back. Perhaps they're not the greatest video games of all time, but they are, in fact, the ones we love the most.
Mine are the greatest of all time.
Oh, really? You think yours are the greatest of all time? How dare you?
I have such great taste.
Mine are definitely the greatest of all time. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to get so much hate over that.
I have amazing taste. I don't play shit games. Yeah.
All right. So how do you want to do this? You want to just go back and forth? Well,
yes. So we have 5. I've chosen 5. Have you chosen 5?
We have 5 each. And then I think we'll throw some honorable mentions at the end. But yeah, you want to go first? Give me your first game and why you love it so much.
Okay. So I'll start from 5 on down. So this is my
are
5th.
Yours in order? Because mine are in no specific order.
No, I don't think these are in any specific order, but I will just count down to what is my favorite game. Let me do that. So I love a numbered list. I do love a numbered list. So number 5, Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. And I kind of briefly mentioned this last week on the show of like the scene that had a profound effect on me. This game had a profound effect on me. I had never played. You have to understand that I am old now and knocking on 40's door. And I had a Nintendo and I had a Super Nintendo and we had a Sega. Storytelling in those games are not there. You know, they're side scrollers. You jump around, you land on things, you complete the level. Well, Zelda Ocarina of Time was the first game I ever played with like a story. You know, and I remember just having this immersive feeling about that game and just, and playing it and really wanting to save the princess, as it were, you know, and do all that. And, the game was very hard. This was before the internet. You couldn't look up the answers to puzzles. You had to go to the cafeteria. You had to find someone who was playing the game. You had to ask them how they got through the water temple, and they had to explain it to you in detail, and you had to hold that information all day long at school, get off the bus, run to the N64, and try to do it, what they had told you. And I remember this, when I beat that game, the accomplishment that I felt from beating that game, and also the sadness that I felt from beating that game because it was over. And I didn't want it to be over. So yeah, Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, one of my all-time favorite video games.
That's a good one to start with. All right, if you're going to try to go in order, I guess I will try to rank them in order. So if we're going to go number 5, favorite game of all time, I'm going to start with Destiny. Destiny. I came to video games late in life. I think I briefly had a Super Nintendo at one point when I was a kid. And then after that, I did not have another video game console until I met my high school boyfriend and I played with his GameCube and Wii and DS and all of that stuff. So I missed a bunch of games. And then, of course, after we broke up, I missed a bunch of games. So I had various points in my life where I played a bunch of games. Destiny came about as one of the first games I played on Xbox ever. I'd only ever played Nintendo consoles and briefly PlayStation. Never played anything on the Xbox. And so I spent a ton of time trying to get good at just playing games on the Xbox when I first got Destiny. And then my ex who I was with at the time had a friend, Gerard, who you know, who runs a local nerd store around here.
Awesome store.
He also liked to play Destiny. And in Destiny, you have a fire team of 3. So the three of us would team up on like Friday nights and we would go do things together in Destiny. And I found myself really liking the game and the story and the way it played. And I got really good at it. And we started to make friends just online because you needed 3 people to do a lot of things, but you needed like 6 people to do a raid. So we would just find like other groups of 3. And if we got along with them really well, you know, you would just like, it's my first time like getting online friends via video games.
Yeah.
And so we met friends we had a lot of friends in London and in the UK. And we would just, they're obviously 6 or 7 hours ahead. So we would play at really weird times to like sync up with them and do these raids together. And it was such a cool experience to just meet people through games, because that wasn't an experience that I typically had. Like Nintendo games, you know, they're solo games for the most part.
Yeah.
And like the friend part of it is really just like, you know, you want to trade Pokemon with somebody. So you meet up with them at school and you trade Pokemon. So that was the first time that I really got to experience the like meeting friends through video games. And I remember this one girl, I got really into PvP in Destiny. I was really good at throwing a sticky grenade and killing people.
Cool.
So me and this one girl, whose name I believe was Miku Lily, she was also from England, started to team up and create like a PvP team that we played a little bit competitively, which was fun too, because I feel like I during that entire time I went from like had never played on the Xbox to like playing competitively on the Xbox. And it was just, I don't know, it was a nice feeling. It was a fun game. It was a community atmosphere and vibe. And I have never really I've occasionally tried to go back to play it, but you know, those people aren't around anymore, so it doesn't really capture the same
Doesn't
experience.
have the same magic that it had then.
But the story was also pretty good. You find that ghost.
See, I've never played
you around.
Played Destiny.
It was great. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
What's number 4?
So number 4 for me is going to be The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. There was a point in my life when I think I truly believed that I was Dragonborn. I think I believed I was Dragonborn. I played when that game came out. Got it for Christmas. Do you remember the ad for that game? It was amazing.
No.
It was live action. They're in this village, this medieval village. They're ringing a bell. People are running toward the camera because they're trying to get away from this beast, this dragon. And there's one person that is walking through the crowd, and he's heading the opposite direction that everyone's running away from the danger. There is this dude, the silhouette of this massive Viking-looking guy walking towards it. And as he gets there, draws his sword, and the dragon lands. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it now. The dragon lands down in front of him, and he's standing there with this massive dragon as it roars, and he's just not moving. I had to have this game. Got the game. I played it. I lost 2 months of my life to that game. I don't think I slept. I played and I played and I played, and I loved it. It was so much fun running around like any Bethesda open world game, running around doing side quests, you know, leveling up, becoming stronger, becoming Dragonborn, you know, learning the shouts, the story. And I loved Skyrim. So that is definitely a very special game to me, just the amount of time that I put into it and everything. And yeah, I've started replaying it a little bit, you know, lately, and it's still so good. It's still good.
It is.
You know, and I've forgotten some things. You know, there's a few things I still remember. There's mostly I've forgotten it because it was so long ago when that game came out. I actually can't believe how old that game is now. But I got it on Steam and I was replaying. Oh, it's still fun. Skyrim, definitely 4th on my list. Yeah.
Well, and just a nod to Skyrim in general, because you got me into it, and I'm a Bethesda hater.
Right. Because when we met, you were like, I don't like this game. I can't stand this game. I haven't been able to get into it. I'm like, what? I've never met a soul who
Now,
didn't
there are
like...
some real reasons for that. Number 1, I get very sick in games, and Bethesda has the weird, I don't know, penchant for constantly having wobbly cameras, and it makes me motion sick real bad. So, like, if a game doesn't immediately grab me, or if I don't know what it's doing, I just don't want to tolerate the motion sickness. But also, I hate being in a ton of menus, and I never know where I am when there are too many menus, and that pisses me off. And Bethesda loves a menu. So
yeah, they do.
That's why I've never really gotten into Fallout either. But you taught me the basics of Skyrim, and I will say that it is an extremely fun game, and now I'm very glad that I got into it, because it's definitely my kind of game.
Skyrim.
But for me, game number 4 is going to be Final Fantasy 15, and I know that's going to annoy some folks who are Final Fantasy 15 haters, but I have a very specific reason why. So let me set the scene. It's 2020, 2021, something around there.
COVID.
When I eventually come to this game, I don't remember when it came out, to be honest, but I'm looking for something new to play. I am in South Carolina, where I was not born and raised. So I am basically alone. I've just gotten divorced. I'm alone in an apartment with my husky, and I am looking for something to do. Final Fantasy 15 available. So I'm like, all right,
Had you played a Final Fantasy game until
I played
then?
like a few bits here and there of Final Fantasy games, but I'd never played one like all the way through. Not for lack of trying. I tend to like, especially when I was younger, like I would get into a game, I would get like 20 hours in, and then I would find another game and I'd be like, I'm going to go play that. And I would just have like game ADHD. So I hadn't played one in a really long time. I was like, all right, I'll try Final Fantasy 15. Now, I reiterate, I am alone and I am playing a game where the whole point basically is that you are traveling around with your 3 friends on an adventure. And it was so comforting to have 3 friends on an adventure that I could just pick up anytime, and they would have their little side conversations and we would fight things. And it was just like a genuinely good vibe for most of that game until it turns. But because I was like looking for that in my life, like that, like missing that like friendships of the people that I used to have around me in Connecticut, it was nice to find that in a game. It was like, there's no other word for it. Like it was just very comforting to have in the game. But the other thing that happened that had never really happened on most of the games I played before, because again, I played a lot of Nintendo, and mostly like platformers and racing games and things that were like Pokemon, just things that were very like surface, was that point in it when, spoiler alert, I assume if you haven't actually played this game, but you know, you're going to meet Luna, who you're going to marry, and at a certain point, she dies. You try to save her, and she dies. And I remember whipping out my phone to be like, what the heck did I do wrong? Right. She died. She's clearly not supposed to die. What happened? I must have screwed this up. Like, I think I even tried the whole fight leading up to that again, because I was just like, I clearly messed this up. Like, I must have missed a few like hits or whatever, and it caused her to die. Like, obviously this is not supposed to happen. Yeah. And I go back, I play it again, she dies again. And I Google it, and I'm like, how the hell do I save this girl? It's just like, you don't. She just dies.
That's part of it. That's part of the deal.
I just remember being like, what? Like, I can't save her? What is this? And it was really the first time I'd like encountered that kind of thing in a game that just like hit me that hard.
That must be a Final Fantasy deal, because I knew a kid years ago in college who was telling us a story about how he was playing Final Fantasy VII and had fallen in love with the girl in that. And when she dies in the game and this is before he could Google this was on the PlayStation 1, but he would start that game over and play it, trying to change the outcome. And then he went on this profound thing where he was like, and that's when I knew that some things in life you just can't change. I was like, oh, you learned that from Final Fantasy VII, did you? But yeah, it was he was heartbroken over something. That must just be a Final Fantasy thing.
It must be. Yeah, that one hit me kind of hard.
I haven't played much Final Fantasy. The first Final Fantasy game I ever played was Final Fantasy 13, and I hated it. I haven't played
one since. Not the online one, right?
No, it was the one with lightning.
14, 16.
They're in like a cloud city type thing, and there's this thing called the Purge, and they end up on the ground. I don't know. Stupid. I don't know. I finished it, but I didn't.
Well, they can't all be winners, right?
No, they can't.
All right, what's number 3?
So number 3, very much like you were saying about how you made these friends in the game that began to feel like your real friends, and then maybe as that fell apart, it really had made you feel a certain way. There was a game that I played at a time in my life when I think I was looking for friends like that. Like I think I was by myself more. A lot of friends had moved away. A lot of my friends were in another city than I was. They were in Wilmington. I was in Raleigh. I didn't have many people to hang out with. And so I started playing Assassin's Creed Black Flag. And through that, there was a scene when, as you were becoming a pirate in this game and you're meeting other pirates and you start forming this coalition of pirates, and then there was that whole scene when they go to some, it felt like it's been years now, but it felt like it was an Aztec ruin looking thing. And there's this long table and all of you and all of your pirate buddies are at this table, and you're drinking and you're celebrating, and life is good, and it feels like one big party, and you like all these characters and you like all these people. But then as the game goes on, history and life starts happening. These pirates get captured. They get executed as pirates. They're killed by, the Royal Navy, these kinds of things. And there's a scene at the end, toward the end of the game, when you go back to that same ruin where you partied. And I think the table or whatever this thing was is still there. And he's like, sits down at it by himself. And you realize they're all gone. I'm the only one left. And I remember feeling so sad about that and not wanting the party to end, so to speak, and everything. So yeah, I remember that feeling of just sitting there and watching that scene and just being like, oh my God, all these pirates are gone. I don't want the pirates to go. I want the pirates to return. So yeah, Assassin's Creed Black Flag was my favorite. I mean, I loved Assassin's Creed games. I did not like the first one. Almost didn't play the second one, but I'm glad I did, because the Assassin's Creed 2 was really good. I loved the whole Ezio story and all that, but Assassin's Creed 3, but Assassin's Creed 4, I really loved Assassin's Creed 4, and I really didn't play any more Assassin's Creed games after that. Assassin's Creed 4 was kind of it for me. I tried the French one, whichever that one was, Unity, I think maybe, but it was such a buggy mess that I just quit playing it. So Assassin's Creed 4 is my favorite Assassin's Creed game. And I love the pirate ships and the naval battles and all that stuff. But yeah, love Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
That is a great one. It's not on my list, but it is in my honorable mentions at the end, because Black Flag, like you said, great story, super fun. Those ship battles in that game are really fun. Amazing game. My number 3 is maybe one of the games that I've sunk the most time into, just in the span of since it came out. And I'm talking hundreds of hours, because there are 4 endings. 4. And I have a hard time, if there are multiple endings, not playing a game to see all of the endings. So Fire Emblem 3 Houses is that 3rd game for me. I liken it to the best Harry Potter game that's ever been made. Because you go to school, you train up, you are the teacher, so you are training other people, but also getting skills yourself. The story is really compelling, and the endings aren't so much it's almost like the game is in 2 parts, the first part and the second part. And what happens, depending on which house you are in and which path you take in one particular house, the second half, the entire second half of the game plays out very differently. So, I mean, they basically built 4.5 games. Because if you think of other games that have different endings, you basically play the whole game the same, usually, for the most part. And it's just the last scene in Baldur's Gate 3 is different for you, or something like that. But in this one, the second half of the game is different. You do different things, you meet different characters, you go different places.
The whole second half is different.
The second half is different, and your goals are different. It was really well done, and it was really interesting, and I never really played a game where that much of the game was different. So it just, and the gameplay is, it's turn-based. So it's a pretty chill game to play. You can sit and think about your moves, and in some cases you have to, because if you turn on permadeath and you don't want to lose a character, you got to think very carefully about the battles that you play. But yeah, it was another one that I just found at a particular time in my life, and I was just I just want to forget about everything else that's going on. I'm going to focus on this game and its various second halves and endings, and I loved it. The characters are great, the writing is great. Great game.
Yeah. I've never played that one either, but I've heard a lot of people talk about it before. So yeah, that might be one that I might like to try to visit one day, just to try it out for myself.
You have my Switch now.
I know. I've thought about it. I was like, yeah, I've got the Switch now. That might be one that's nice to try. Especially because the way you describe it, it was kind of, like you said, the best Harry Potter game made.
Yeah.
So that's one that I'd like to try. So my number 2 for me, and I love this franchise, huge fan of the franchise, but this game stands out to me as the best. Just, I guess, because the time I was playing it, I was young. I think I would have been in middle school. And I'd never played a game like this before. And so, yeah, it was very exciting to play this, but it would be Resident Evil 2. Loved it. It introduced my favorite character in the Resident Evil franchise, which was Leon Kennedy. He gets introduced in Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2 expands on the lore, and that's something I think it might have been. Resident Evil was the first video game franchise that I ever played that actually felt like it had lore to it, because it expanded on these ideas from the first one. And, you're in the city, and it was spooky back then. It was pretty scary to play. And I remember my friend John and I, in my room around the PlayStation 1, playing this game. And now you look at it, it's funny to think that it's so scary because of how pixelated it is. But it was terrifying. And I loved the characters. I remember at the end, there's a character, Ada Wong, and when she falls off the balcony and you're like holding on to her, you're like, God, I did not want her to die. And so yeah, like that was a very good game, Resident Evil 2, and the remake. So I'm talking about the first one from the PlayStation, but the remake that they made a couple of years ago is even better. The Resident Evil 2 remake is phenomenal, and one of the best Resident Evil games. But as a whole, I love the Resident Evil games. Love that story. I still don't know why they can't make a decent adaptation of that into a movie. I don't understand it, but hopefully one day we get a good one. But yeah, I love Resident Evil 2 is a great game. Great game. And the cover art for that was just iconic. Amazing.
Nice.
What is your number 2?
All right. So 2 and 1 are hard for me. It's hard for me to put one above the other because I'm a bit of a BioWare fangirl. But I'm going to go with Dragon Age, and I'm going to go with Inquisition. But I will say that my heart belongs to Fenris and Dragon Age 2. So whoever wrote that character, well done. I also really like the fact that in Dragon Age 2, they force you to make a choice and to choose between the mages and the Templars. Is that
Templars,
right?
yeah.
Is that right?
I believe it is. That's one I have played.
Yeah. I actually really like the combat in that game, too. It's really fast. But, and I'm going to get some hate if I got the Templars wrong, but I think that's right. It's been a minute since I played it.
I feel like it was the Templars and the mages.
I can't remember if that's what they call them.
Right, because in Dragon Age,
look it up before I get in trouble.
Mages, aren't they always kind of shunned in the Dragon Age universe?
Yeah. Yeah, mages are Templars. Okay, I got it right. Right.
I was like, I think you're right. I
was like, I haven't played Dragon Age 2 in a minute, but yes. So I loved that game, but I spent a lot of time in that game, even though it's not a very long game. I just really enjoyed that game. But Dragon Age Inquisition is a much longer game, and the characters are much more nuanced. And Solas is one of my favorite characters of all time. And unfortunately, he's the one that I chose to romance going into that game first, because I always play an elf. Again, spoiler alert, but at a certain point in that game, you find out that he's kind of the cause of all the trouble. And he refuses to be with you at first, a little. And then you get into a relationship with him. And then at a certain point, he basically tells you, like, it's over. But you're not even close to done with the game yet. So you've given your heart to this person who has effectively shunned you.
You get broken up with.
You don't really know why yet.
You get dumped.
Until the reveal of why. It was so well done. And you don't know if you love him or you hate him. There's people on both sides. I love him. I think he's great. But I want to destroy the world with Solas. That's really what I wanted to do in the last Dragon Age game that came out, but they didn't really give you that choice. So, yeah, Dragon Age Inquisition. I have not 100%ed that game. There is so much to do in that game that to this day I haven't done it all, and I've probably played it through 3 or 4 times. But I just have never taken the time to kind of do everything. But man, there's a lot going on in that game. But I mean, the entire Dragon Age, just all those games, they're all great. They're all worth playing. Even the first one is worth going back and playing. It's kind of funny to look at, like you said, with the pixelation and stuff. You're like, yeah, this is rough, but the writing is still so good that it's worth playing. It's funny. It's challenging. It's great.
I love the Dragon Age games. My favorite one, actually, though, is the first one. I really love that game. I was really involved. I was really obsessed with Morrigan. I was romancing Morrigan, and I remember when I was playing that game. But I love the first one. I did try Dragon Age Inquisition, but the game that I got had a malfunction on it, and I could not get past this one cutscene. It would always freeze up, so I was actually never able to finish the game.
Weird.
Yeah, so I've never beaten Dragon Age Inquisition. I've never finished it. I have it on Steam. I remember like getting it on Steam later to like finish it, and I haven't started it yet. So maybe
it's a long game. You can mainline through the story somewhat quickly if you focus, but there's so many side quests just pulling you off.
I like doing all the side quests.
I do too. There's so much world building, but eventually, at a certain point, you're just kind of like, okay, I could do side quests until I die, or I could just finish this game out. So, but yeah, great games. What is number one?
We have come to number one. This game is my favorite game of all time. I have played through it multiple times. And every time I play through it, I always just think like, God, I kind of wish this was my life at this moment. Because I am the man. I am the man. But I got this game. I remember going over to my friend Samantha's place. We went to GameStop. I had pre-ordered this game. We went at midnight. They were doing a launch party for this. And I stood in line at midnight to get my copy. We got it. We ran home. I took the next day off school. We ran back to her place. We popped this game in and we played it all day long. Fallout New Vegas. Greatest game ever made. I'm sorry. It is fantastic. Like and to be fair, I started playing it. I remember we got about an hour in and it froze and I was just like, a Bethesda game. Yes, now we are playing. You know, it's glitchy, it's freezing. Yes, this is a Bethesda game. But I really loved it. I just got so immersed in that world. And Fallout is my favorite game franchise anyway. You know, I love them all. The Fallout 3 was the first one that I played, and that's why I wanted New Vegas so bad, was because Fallout 3 was so good. But New Vegas it was so much better than Fallout 3. And I loved the story. I loved New Vegas. I loved the conundrums that were presented to you, the factions that you could join, the NCR versus the Legion. I remember going in like an anarchist kind of direction where I played both sides and got them up to, and then, you know, kind of swooped in and took over everything at the end. Yeah, it was great. It was just really great. And I remember being so immersed in that world and just wanting to never stop playing the game. There comes a point where, I mean, you could play for as long as you want. You never really have to stop. But there comes a point where you don't really get any new quests and you're just wandering around. But I visited every location. I found everything. I found all the armor, all the best weapons, everything I could possibly do in Fallout New Vegas. I did. And I had the best life for myself in a post-apocalyptic world that I could possibly think of, and I just never wanted to stop playing. Yeah, Fallout New Vegas is the greatest game in my opinion. I love it.
So my number one is not the greatest game ever made. I'm gonna preface it with that. The greatest games, in my opinion, are the trilogy that precedes this game. But I missed the trilogy. It was not on my radar, and so my entry into the world that I wish to live in, as we talked about last week, Mass Effect, was through Andromeda, of all things.
No one liked that. Yeah.
Everyone hated it, mostly because it was buggy as hell when it came out. It was broken. It crashed a lot. Yeah. It was a disaster of a launch for that game. But it's a really good game. I came to it well after they'd already fixed everything. And it was just one of those games. Xbox was like, you played a bunch of other weird sci-fi shit. You want to play this?
You must like this too.
And I was like, sure. What the hell? I'll play this thing called Andromeda.
That's just interesting.
Again, it hit me at a certain time in my life, right? So this was probably like towards the end of my marriage when things were falling apart and I was quite alone. And this game has some top-notch romances in it, which is very helpful. Jal, I will remember forever. But it's just, when I think, you know how people ask you sometimes, like, would you want to live forever? And most people are like, hell nah, I want to get off this. No. I want to get off this ride. The only reason that I would is because I want to live long enough to see a future where humans are in space. Like, I just, the idea of being out there in space with like endless adventure, the idea of like meeting other civilizations, other life forms, other whatever, like that is so appealing to me. And Andromeda just gives you all of that, right? Like, you're meeting other aliens, you're a diplomat, you're fighting things, you're making connections, you're investigating weird ancient ruins. Like, you're doing all of this cool stuff. And it was such an interesting world for me. Now, I played it and then went back and played the actual Mass Effect trilogy, which is far and away some of the greatest games of all time. Like, I've replayed Andromeda once. I probably played the Mass Effect trilogy 7 to 10 times. Like, I just really, I love those games. I love being in that world. I love the journey of Shepard. Like, the whole thing is amazing.
Yeah, we play the board game.
Exactly, which is also good. But so by no way am I saying that Andromeda is the greatest Mass Effect game. It is definitely not. And the things that I remember now are mostly from the trilogy and like your companions. I mean, Rex is amazing. Garrus, love forever. Like, I mean, the characters in that game are so good, and the way that they set up that trilogy is incredible. One of the greatest franchises of all time. But Andromeda, for what it was, and for the fact that it introduced me to this franchise that I adore, that's what puts it at number 1 on my list.
I just think it's interesting that, Mass Effect Andromeda was your gateway into Mass Effect. That you played Mass Effect Andromeda, and then were like, I need more Mass Effect. Whereas, like, I started playing Mass Effect Andromeda and was like, I don't want to play this no more. And I just think that that's interesting because it's a bit like starting with Toy Story 4 and being like, I got to see the other 3.
Maybe.
It's crazy. But
the story of Andromeda is good, though. I mean, the relationships, the writing is good to a certain degree. Again, not at all good compared to Mass Effect trilogy, but like it is good for what it is. And I think at the time, I was playing out on Xbox, I love Xbox, but sometimes there is just a vacant void of content on that platform. So when you've got nothing else going on and you find Andromeda fully done with no bugs, it's a good game. It's worth playing.
Do you think we will ever get another Mass Effect game? Or are they kind of done with that? Because they put out Dragon Age game, 2 years ago?
Yeah, I have thoughts about that game. But
yeah, I know you weren't a big fan of that, right?
No, I think it's a great game. It is a lovely fantasy game. It is not a Dragon Age game, in my personal opinion, but that's an argument for another day.
That's how I felt about Silent Hill.
Yeah.
Lovely game.
Great game, just not a good Silent Hill game.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and, people might feel that way about Andromeda, too, that it's a great game. It's just not a Mass Effect game. But, I mean, to me, it is just because it led me into the franchise.
Sure. It was your gateway.
Will we ever get another one? I mean, they've said they're working on it, but they've, I think, been saying that for quite some time. So
that's actually probably the good thing you did start with Mass Effect Andromeda, because it only goes uphill from there.
Exactly.
It goes up from there.
Yeah. I mean, I really was just introduced to a world where there were like a ton of different aliens and this concept of like light speed travel I mean, it was just like, it was crazy.
No, yeah. For me, Mass Effect was the Star Trek game I always wanted.
Sure.
That's what it was for me. I was like, man, when I started playing, I was like, dude, this would have been the coolest Star Trek game. It kind of had those similar things for me, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love for them to make another one. I would love for them to build on what they had. I would be a little concerned based on what I saw for Dragon Age.
Dragon Age game.
But again, was a really good game. I just didn't feel like it was Dragon Age to me. And I know I've tried to explain in various forms why I feel that way. And it's maybe not coherent. It's just a feeling. But I really enjoyed my time with it. I thought the story were really good. The characters were great. But I didn't feel the same way about that game that I feel about the other Dragon Age games. But to wrap up, got any honorable mentions? Anything you just want to call out before we go?
Yeah, so some honorable mentions for me. GoldenEye on the N64. Lots of late nights playing multiple player with some friends of mine, John and his brother. That was the first time we'd done something like that where you could get together and run around these maps and shoot each other. So GoldenEye was really awesome. That game was fun. Quest 64 was this little game. It was very hard and really cumbersome, but I remember playing it and just really digging the little character of Brian as he goes on this quest. And I have a memory of my sister and I sitting in my room playing this game and like doing funny voices for the characters because, it was all, text because it was N64, but I remember we were just putting some funny voices behind them. That was a nice memory. Star Wars Shadow of the Empire, really loved that game. On the 64, and then of course, to wrap it up and round it out, the Batman Arkham games, Batman Arkham City, Batman Arkham Origins, Arkham Asylum. Those are some incredible games. Far better than a superhero game deserves to be. I don't know. It's very, very good. So yeah, those are some important games to me. Honorable mentions. How about yourself?
For me, I think it's Pokemon Fire Red, which is my intro to Pokemon. And as you can tell from behind me, still a huge fan.
You like the Pokemans.
I do. Persona 5, again, one of those games that just hit me at a weird time, and it was funny and it was interesting. And It was not like anything I'd really ever played before.
Hmm.
And even a shout out to they added a new ending with Royal when they released like a updated version of it, and that was really good too. So they did a great job with that game. And then Assassin's Creed Odyssey,
Mm.
actually, the ancient Greece was a place that I would have loved to travel to if I could go back in time.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. I thought the game was really well done. It was beautiful at the time when it came out. And I booted it up since, and it's still pretty amazing looking. And there were just characters in that like stuck with you, even funny characters. Like the fact that I remember this name is nuts, but there's a character named Alcibiades
Oh, wow.
who you meet many times. He mostly just wants to sleep with you, but he is very funny and he gets himself into some weird stuff. So that was funny. You get to take part in the Olympics, which was funny. It's an interesting game. It's well done. The like wars and the battles and like gaining territory for the Romans or that for Athens, or for rather the Spartans or Athens is interesting. And I don't know. I just had a lot of fun in that game. Much like Black Flag, it was fun to play.
Yeah. I was also thinking I should mention that Grand Theft Auto Vice City, I also really loved it. And to this day, Wave 103 is one of my favorite radio stations. So anyone who's played Grand Theft Auto Vice City and has listened to Wave 103 as much as I have listened to Wave 103 while riding around causing mayhem will understand. I love that radio station. Wave 103 City. Good stuff.
Nice. That reminds me of Forza.
Forza.
I should say that Forza Horizon, I want to say 4.
I think it was. This
Was
is
it
the
3
one
or
you
4?
showed me?
Yeah,
The British one?
British one.
I think that's 4.
Yeah, it was quite fun, and just it sparked to mind because you said the radio stations, and you could cycle through radio
Yeah, the
stations in
radio
that game.
stations in there. Yeah,
There's some good ones on there, and the announcers are
That was
really
good
well
racing.
done.
I'm looking forward to 6. Forza 6, Japan.
Yeah, can't wait to go to Japan.
Can't wait.
All right, well, I think that's those are our side quests for this week,
Well,
and be back next week with more. But I guess for now, we should transition to racing. We got Bristol
racing.
this week.
We got Bristol, baby. It's Bristol, baby.
We've got a lot to talk about this week because I don't know about you, but I had a lot of fun at the last great Coliseum, Bristol Motor Speedway.
It was
What do
Bristol,
you
baby.
think, Justin?
It was Bristol, baby. I have a lot of opinions. Bristol was the most exciting racetrack on the schedule. It was the one that I've told you, fans who had tickets to Bristol would leave them in their will because it was the hardest ticket in sports to get because it was the most electrifying race. It was the most exciting race. It was too wide. It was bumping and banking. It was donuts in the door. It was where the bump and run was basically created. I mean, it was excitement for 500 laps, lap after lap, those high baked turns, incredible speeds for the track size that it was. And then something happened. They repaved the track and the racing disappeared. And it just seems like we have been trying to get back to a product, a package that was exciting and was fun to watch. And today, I feel like we were there. Like, I think there's still work to do. Something that I think I would have liked to seen in this race was the tires held up for way too long. So for new NASCAR fans, the tire package that they have, they will eventually degrade, and it was clearly laying down rubber on the track, but it wasn't doing it. They were lasting too long. I think it would have been better because they could run 120 around there laps on a set of tires. I feel like the racing might have been better had that been shorter, if the tire would have fallen apart faster, because then you would have had more comers and goers. You would have had people having to take care of their tires more. I mean, because the winner of the race today was able to win that race on very old tires compared to the two that were chasing him down who had fresher tires because of the caution that came out late. But overall, I thought the race was super exciting. I thought it was one of the best Bristol races I have seen in a long time.
And to be clear, we're talking about the Cup race that happened today.
Yes, the Cup race.
Yeah.
The Cup race. It was to me, it was the best Bristol race that I have seen in quite some time. quite some time.
I would agree. I've seen probably 5 or 6 of them now. I agree. I wish there was a little bit more tire fall off. However, I also saw one of the races where they made a dramatic tire change,
Yes.
and that was a freaking shit show.
That
So
was.
there does need to be a mid ground in there between tires
Yeah.
last forever and tires fall off 5 seconds after you pull out of the pits.
Indeed. I think a happy medium between that. So what you're talking about, there was a race at the Bristol Night Race, which they run in August. For whatever reason, the cooler temperatures at Bristol with the tire that they had would come apart so much faster, and the tire would literally shred to pieces in 30 to 40 laps. So the drivers had to adapt, and the ones that could save their tires more, not driving as hard and keeping the rubber there, were able to do better in that race than the ones who went super hard at the beginning, because they would, all of a sudden, their tires would come apart. They did it in the spring race a few years ago, and it did it in the fall race, what's considered the fall race, at night later, and it was the colder temperatures. Today it was super hot. I think the track temp was over 100 degrees, so you weren't going to have that, so the tire held up. But I thought the racing groove, so they put that PJ1 down on the bottom lane. It's like a sticky residue that's going to help the cars grip the track. That created solid racing on the bottom, and then as the race went on, as that tire wear washed up the track, it started actually creating a second groove to where cars could then start running high. That's when the racing really got good. Now, old school Bristol, I saw a little bit of that in the first run, because old school Bristol was like a one-lane track, and what made that exciting was that the only way to pass a car was to run them over and knock them out of the way. And that's what created the excitement of Bristol. We saw a little bit of that in the first part, but I really did enjoy when that second line came through, because you had 2-3 wide racing on those little turns. And I thought that created some pretty awesome racing. We saw some great racing up at the front. We saw some lead changes. And that's just something that we haven't seen in a while. The last couple of races, the driver who won Bristol was able to get out front and just lead pretty much the whole thing uncontested.
Yeah.
But we did not see that today. It wasn't a snooze.
We didn't. It wasn't. And we definitely did see a lot more of the good old bump and run, as they call it, this time around, which was pretty cool. I know you and I were both rooting for Ryan Blaney, mostly because there was no way Denny Hamlin was getting anywhere up there, and Bubba Wallace wasn't doing much either.
Ran 10th all day.
Much to my mother's chagrin.
Yeah.
But even so, it was cool to see Ty Gibbs win his first race.
That's right.
And in such a fashion where he had to beat out Larson. He had to beat out Blaney. Those are probably two of the best race car drivers on the track,
and
or, in the world, as they like to say about Larson.
Yeah.
And on older tires, do it
with
as you
old
mentioned.
Tires.
He did a great job today, Ty Gibbs. And I think you and I, somewhat surprisingly, have become bigger fans of Joe Gibbs racing in the past 6 months, largely due to the 2311 trial against NASCAR. Some things came out that made us see Joe Gibbs racing in a different light, and Joe Gibbs himself in a different light, and that entire operation. But it makes you wonder, Ty Gibbs isn't running so well since it was his crew chief, right? That changed.
Competition director, he was a crew chief, but then he moved over to more of a management role on that team. Actually might have been his crew chief. Yeah, it might have been his crew chief.
I can't remember it was Chris Gabehart, right?
Chris Gabehart. He had a very significant role on that team from an engineering perspective. I think he was setting up the car, and he was working with Ty Gibbs, and things just were not going well.
No.
And there was kind of some talk that he might have been a spoiled little kid and wasn't willing. And maybe it turns out that it wasn't Ty Gibbs. It was
Ty Gibbs was not the problem.
He was not the problem. Yeah. Maybe it was Chris Gabehart that was actually the problem. I'm starting to think. This is just my opinion. But if you look at the way Ty Gibbs has run earlier in his career, I mean, it wasn't good. I mean, Ty Gibbs was a driver who won a ton of races in the O'Reilly Series and won a championship in the O'Reilly Series. And then he finally gets the chance to go drive for Gibbs. And a lot of people will say things like, he was a silver spoon kid, because Gibbs is his the guy who owns the team, Joe Gibbs, is his grandpa. So he's going to get to the Cup Series regardless of whether he was good or not, right? But he gets that opportunity, and there's nothing happens with it. I mean, he runs terribly. And this year, though, there was a lot of talk of what was going to happen now that Chris Gabehart was gone. Well, then Chris Gabehart gets in trouble. He's got all these legal things now with him giving information, Joe Gibbs information, allegedly giving, secret setups and information that they were doing at Joe Gibbs over to Spire, which is where he went over to the other team, Spire Motorsports, and he was secretly feeding them information and those kinds of things, allegedly again. But it turns out that maybe he was the problem, because now that he's got a new crew chief, he's been running great. Like all season long, he's been running great. We've seen a new Ty Gibbs, a friendlier looking Ty Gibbs.
Yeah, I mean, I had because I only got started in racing a couple of years ago with you, and you told me a little bit about Ty Gibbs, and just being at the track, you don't see a ton of Ty Gibbs stuff. You see some, but the perception from the fans generally, I think, is the Silver Spoon perception that he's just like an entitled little spoiled brat. But what I've seen since I started watching with you is the battle that he did last year between him and Ty Dillon at the end for charity. And he was very polite and nice and generous in his speech there when he won that.
Yeah, he was cool.
He's done some other interviews where he's come across pretty humble, and he just seems happier this year.
He does.
In general.
He really does.
And, there could be other things going on in his life, but from an outside observer's perspective, which we have no inside industry knowledge besides what we read, it does seem like the changes on the team were extremely beneficial for him and his career this year.
Yeah. The results are showing. Had a great run today. I was torn because my man Blaney was, had a super awesome race car, started on the pole and kind of faded back. Larson really showed his strength early, and I was getting worried because I thought it was going to be another domination show by Larson. I thought he was going to run away with it like he typically has done at Bristol in the last couple of years. But as they kind of worked on the car to that halfway point, Blaney really started making a turn and it was kind of fighting his way back up to the front, and it became clear that Blaney had the faster car as the race progressed. And then, that caution coming out there at the end, I think if the caution doesn't come out the first time with 20 to go or something like that, if that caution doesn't come out, I think Blaney wins the race. Gibbs was running him down, but I don't think Gibbs has the car to get around Blaney if the caution doesn't come out. So the caution comes out, Blaney comes into the pits with Larson. Blaney gets 4 tires. Larson gets 2 tires. Ty Dillon doesn't get any tires. He said on the radio, he goes, "I don't want to give up track position." And I remember scratching my head being like, dude's going to drop like a rock. He didn't though. They get the restart. He's running the outside. Blaney's wrapping the bottom. Blaney can't pass him. Now, if Riley Herbst doesn't spin out at the end of the race because Kyle Busch just was like, screw you, buddy, just drives through him. If the caution doesn't come out at the end of the race, I think Blaney does get around him.
Maybe, but let's not forget though that Blaney's pit crew screwed him over
every
time he came into pit lane.
Yeah.
For every race we've seen this year, the man basically has to outrun his pit crew in order to win a race.
I think,
to be honest, if anyone who ever listens to this knows someone at Penske who can explain to us why Ryan Blaney has the worst pit crew there,
yes.
I would love to know why. I think Ty Gibbs, he was looking racy all day. He was looking fast all day. I do think Blaney had the best car, but man, something's got to happen on his pit crew.
Ryan Blaney's biggest competition in NASCAR is his own pit crew.
Yeah.
I think Larry McReynolds said something Sunday during the race that he has lost over 80 spots. 80 positions have been lost on pit road alone, yet they always talk about how Blaney passes the most cars of any driver. And it's because he's constantly having to overcome the mistakes that his own crew makes on pit road. There were so many times during the race that Blaney would come in to the pits, the leader, and would leave in second or third place. It was just fourth. It was awful. It was awful. Ty Gibbs actually had to overcome some stuff today. Early in the race, he did not have the car, and he fell all the way back to like 17th, 18th position, and slowly worked his way all the way back up. So that just shows you, that's another reason why I really like this race, is that there was passing, there wasn't a lot of riding around, and good drivers with good cars, good handling cars, were able to make their way up, because everybody looked extremely loose today, or during the race.
They
You could
did,
see them
yeah.
like wiggling around a bunch, and the tail was wagging there in the back of the car. So I mean, they were pretty loose. It was pretty slick out there, is what it looked like.
It definitely seemed to be that way. But I mean, it was nice to see it looking racy at Bristol today. It also looked pretty racy last night at the O'Reilly race.
Yes.
And congrats to Connor Zilic on that one, because he finally won a race this year.
Yeah, I know.
Poor guy.
I feel bad for Connor, because Connor Zilic is a super talented kid. I mean, he is a kid. Because he's still got spots, but he to go out last year and win 10 races, and let's be real, the championship. I know that he didn't end up winning the championship, but he is the champion. Let's be honest. Let's be real.
He should have been. Yeah.
He's the champion. I know Jesse Love won the championship, but he's the champion. But we'll say Jesse Love is the champion.
For the
Anyway.
two Jesse Love fans out there.
Jesse Love won the championship, but Connor Zilic is the champion. Anyway, I feel bad for him, because, he wins. It's kind of what Joey Logano faced when Joey Logano first came into the sport, where everybody was calling him sliced bread, because he was the best thing since, because he was winning everything, and he just didn't know how to lose. And then he gets to the Cup Series, and it is a drastically different thing when you get there. And Connor Zilic is finding that out. Now, I don't think that is all his fault. I think, as a whole, that team that he is on, Trackhouse, they have struggled. None of their cars are performing all that well. So, there's that. But, it was good to see Zilic return to the O'Reilly series and not dominate, because I wouldn't say it was a dominating performance. I mean, he ran kind of in the top 10 all day long, but, Kyle Larson was the dominating force. He was whooping him. And then, Zilic gets track position and is able to hold off Larson. So Larson, 2 dominating performances over the weekend, but comes up short in both for the best driver in the world. But Zilic did awesome, and it was good to see. And continues Junior Motorsports, winning. Their tradition of winning this season. I think they've only lost one race, and it was the race in Rockingham to William Sawalich since the season started. So what a performance there. But it was good to see. Now, speaking of Zilic, I don't want to get away from this, but you called this season that Ty Gibbs would win a race before Zilic and Hocevar.
I did.
And you nailed that. So
yeah, I think we're only a race or two in. Oh, thanks. But no, we he just looked racier this year. And Zilic, I still want to say that Zilic will win a race before Hocevar. I think if I were a driver out there and I had the chance to just knock him out of the way to win, I'd probably do that. So I still don't really see him winning before Zilic. I think Zilic drives like a decent human being and a heads-up driver. I still kind of expect Zilic to win first. Hocevar might luck into it, run away with one. But
Zilic just has a lot to learn. I mean, the Cup Series is an entirely different beast. It is the best drivers that stock car racing has to offer. The competition level is really high there.
Yeah.
It is not like the O'Reilly series where there are 10 good drivers. All of them are really good. Even the drivers that are, if you take the 35th place Cup driver and you put them in the O'Reilly series or the Truck series or ARCA series, they are going to win that race 9 times out of 10 because they are the best. And I think, Zilic has a ton of talent, but he hasn't raced with these guys. And these guys have been, these are the best. And I think it's just going to take him a little time to understand how to race in this league. But there is a phenomenon that happens, and I talk about it a lot to you, is that when a driver struggles to win a first race, and this is what'll be interesting to keep an eye on with a Ty Gibbs, is that a driver will struggle early in their career to win their first race. It'll take sometimes a year, sometimes 2 to win their first race. But as soon as they win their first race, something happens in a driver's mind. And then all of a sudden, it just seems like the next win comes easier and faster. So Ty Gibbs might not be done winning this year. I don't know if it's a confidence thing. I don't know. I'm not a racer, but if
Yeah.
something just flips in their mind, I've seen it for my whole life watching this, is that when a driver gets their first win, you can almost expect the next one to come within a few weeks, and just more so. So now that Ty Gibbs has got that out of the way, he understands that he knows how to win these races now. He might not be done.
Yeah, I think we could definitely see that. I think the only thing, to be honest, that will hold Zilich back is the car that he's driving.
Yeah, the team
I
has
think I
struggled
think he'll
overall.
eventually figure it out, but we saw him look pretty racy on the first road course this year,
Mm-hmm.
but his car was never going to do it. There
Nope.
was just no way to get that car to the front.
And even SVG, I mean, SVG, that's Shane Van Gisbergen, SVG, even he struggled on the first road course of this year, and he was running really well. I mean, he was in second place, but he is a dominating force on these road course races, and even he wasn't the SVG you're kind of used to seeing. Now, admittedly, he was like, Coda is my worst road course,
Mm-hmm.
and he finished second. So, I mean,
Yeah,
we'll see what happens when he gets to, Infineon and Watkins Glen and the new street course in San
San
Diego.
Diego.
San Diego.
Yeah,
We'll see how he runs there. But yeah, I think Trackhouse as a whole, if Zilich had a better car, perhaps maybe he would be running well. But even Chastain, who typically runs better than the other Trackhouse cars, really didn't have a good showing today. He didn't finish in the top 10. He ran there for a little bit, but then faded.
well, it'll be interesting to see how all those drivers do in the future. We've got a couple other things to talk about this week. Some news, some NASCAR news hit this week. One, Cletus not approved for Talladega.
Yeah, I honestly think that's the right call. As much fun as it would have been seeing Cletus run in the O'Reilly series at Talladega, that's a bad idea. I mean, it's a bad idea. I mean, no, he barely was able to keep his car under control at Rockingham,
Mm-hmm.
made a lot of silly mistakes. Putting him at Talladega, although the track would be easier to drive than Rockingham was, putting him at Talladega, I think would be a bad idea, just because of the other cars on the track and how they're in the big pack, and he's going to be pushing on someone's bumper and bump drafting them at close to 200 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Someone bump drafting him and him knowing how to receive that shot in the ass when you're going that fast and what to do with a run when you get a run and how to manage that speed when you're coming up to the guy behind you. Bad idea. He would cause the big one. I mean, and when he was at Daytona and in the truck series, he spun out on his own because he got 3 wide and lost the air and didn't know what to do when you get into that situation. It just spun out. So Talladega could be a really bad idea. However, he is going to run at Kansas in the ARCA series, and that's what he needs to do. He needs to run more ARCA races. He needs to run more truck races and just kind of pump the brakes on the whole O'Reilly thing for a little bit. So I don't
Yeah.
disagree with the statement to put Cletus out at Talladega. I don't disagree with it.
Yeah, I can't say that I do either. I would be worried for him. I mean, we've seen some pretty gnarly things go down at that track at Daytona. Priest
Yeah.
is always flying through the air at Daytona.
Yeah.
And many people are smashing their cars up at Talladega. I think they have a
Yeah.
graveyard to prove it.
I think
So-
Priest is working on his pilot's license because he's got enough airtime at Talladega and Daytona that I think he could get his wings.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I look forward to seeing Cletus run, and to be honest, Cletus running more ARCA races is just going to elevate that league, because I can't remember the last time I cared about an ARCA race, and with Cletus out there, I want to watch the race. So that's gonna bring eyeballs to the ARCA series, which severely needs help, and he could be the perfect guy to help that. The O'Reilly series doesn't need help right now. I mean, it does. And he doesn't need to be out there with those guys just yet.
Yeah, no, I agree. It would be great to see the ARCA series come back a little bit. I know you and I have been to a few ARCA races now just to watch Cletus.
Yes.
As have several other fans.
Yeah.
From the just cheers in the stands, you can kind of tell who they're rooting for. So it would be cool to see that race series kind of come back in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to Cletus. The other news, I think, is more of a rumor, not an announcement, but there is a rumor that Kyle Busch may be retiring after Daytona next year.
Yeah, I had started hearing this.
Not totally surprising
No.
if that is in fact true, because he seems kind of fed up with the whole thing.
If I was him, I'd be pretty frustrated. Kyle Busch every week had a chance to win the race. Great race car driver, has won a ton of races, has won some championships, ton of speed there. Most of that, actually all of that, was done at Joe Gibbs Racing. And when he left Joe Gibbs Racing and went over to RCR, that's when the problems began. And things just have not turned around there. He has not been able to turn that program around. And every week he is just out there making laps. And I can't imagine what it would be to go from winning multiple races a year, double-digit races a year, to, just kicking everyone's ass to getting your ass kicked every single week. He's got a son coming up who's doing a lot of racing. He wants to be there. He has a lot of his son and his whole family has a big Instagram presence, but they're making a lot of Instagram videos about his son who's racing late models and those kinds of things, and he's coming up through the ranks and winning. So I think he wants to be there to do that, and honestly, he'd probably have more fun doing that. So if it is true, if he is leaving, and I think that is the case, that is going to be crazy just not having any Busch brothers at all in the field. That's an end of an era. No Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch hung it up because of concussion injuries, and then Kyle Busch hanging it up just due to not having any fun. I can't imagine he's having any fun doing that anymore. I mean, driving a race car for a living would be fun, but if you're used to winning every week, driving a race car to finish just can't be that fun. Would you agree?
For sure. I mean, he does have some of the funniest radio comments we've ever heard, so I'll miss that. The compilations of Kyle Busch swearing up a storm just for all the shitty things that have happened to him while he's been in a race car have been incredible. So I'll miss that.
Yeah, after listening to this podcast, please go on YouTube and find compilations of Kyle Busch on interviews and his radio. You will be entertained. It's amazing. It's amazing. But yeah, no, I think it's a good move. I don't think he's going to be the kind of guy who wants to finish out his career like Darrell Waltrip did, or Dale Jarrett did, or Bill Elliott did. I think he wants to, because it is happening to him. I mean, he is finishing out his career that way. So I think, kind of like Rusty Wallace always talked about, Rusty Wallace went out when he knew it was time. Like, he didn't want to be the guy who was like just riding around, who used to be good. And so for that reason, I think, if Kyle Busch doesn't get a win this year, might be time to move on.
Agreed. Any predictions about who they put in that car?
Ooh, yeah. So it would be RCR. So Cletus McFarlane. No, I think it would be down between Jesse Love and Austin Hill. Austin Hill is probably owed it, but I think I would give it to Jesse Love because he's young, and I feel like there is more I could get longevity-wise out of Jesse Love.
Maybe, but don't you think Austin Hill would have a better chance of winning in that car?
Definitely at the plate races. Well, drafting tracks are not plate races anymore. So stupid. But yeah, drafting tracks. I think Austin Hill would be a good choice. I don't know. I think I would have to make them fight it to the death. Which one of you two wants it the most? Maybe we would take them both to the track. I would take Jesse Love and Austin Hill to the track, and I'd both put them in a car, and I'd have them do a 50-lap race, and then whoever finished in first in that race, I'd be like, all right, you win. Your ride is yours. I don't know, but I think it would be one of those two. I don't think they go and get a random driver from another team to come over and drive their car for them. I think they would promote from the O'Reilly series, call one of them up, and put them in the seat. What they actually need to do, here's what they need to do, is that they need to get rid of Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon, open up all the seats at the team, and put both Austin Hill and Jesse Love in the cars is what they need to do. They need to understand that Austin Dillon is never going to be the driver that team needs, and Kyle Busch is ready to quit. So wipe the slate clean and start over with two very talented drivers who drive for you on Saturday in the O'Reilly series. Put Austin Hill and Jesse Love in that, just bring them both up, and then put new drivers in those seats. Cletus McFarlane in one of those seats, evidently, is what we're doing now. So put Cletus in one of the O'Reilly seats full time, and then find some other driver to drive the car. If I was Richard Childress, yeah, if I was Richard Childress, this is what I would do. But I'm not Richard Childress.
Cletus would be a disaster, though.
Yeah, but how entertaining would that be? How entertaining of a disaster would that be? And I would move merch. I would sell so many T-shirts.
You would sell a ton of merch. That's very true.
Merch. Yeah, that's what
All right. Well, we got Kansas next week. Any Kansas predictions?
Yes, Kansas is going to be a fun race for all you new race fans who have made it through this conversation this long. Kansas is one of the better tracks on the schedule. It is a really fun race, very fast, multiple lines of racing, multiple passing opportunities. Again, Kyle Larson's always really good there. Denny Hamlin's really good there. People who can ride the wall are pretty good. And I do mean ride the wall. If you can get close enough to the wall, like this far off of it, and run there all day long, you can really do well. We saw Bubba Wallace run really well there until his boss took him out. So who knows? I do think that Ryan Blaney is going to want revenge. So I think we should pay attention to that. But I think the Toyotas are going to be the cars to beat going into Kansas. So yeah, I think that's what we look for. Tyler Reddick's going to be strong. Is anyone to catch him?
Yeah.
So he still has a 62-point lead over second place Ryan Blaney. That's one race victory over second place. So it's a pretty sizable lead.
It is. I think winning gets you a lot of points
It
this
does.
year.
It does.
So Brian Blaney wins a few more races. I think we might see somebody catch or pass him. But I like those predictions for Kansas. It might cause a fist fight in our house if we see a Denny Hamlin, a Bubba Wallace situation again.
Yes.
But we'll see what happens.
I know. That can get sticky.
All right. Anything else we got for today?
No, I think that's everything we need to go racing for Kansas. I think we got what we got. We run what we brung.
All right. Well, as always, please leave us a comment, like, or subscribe, especially if you made it this far. I mean, come on. You made it. We talked a lot this week, so you made it real far.
I'm about to say, please give me the chance to show you why NASCAR is the most exciting sport out there. Please give me the chance. If you listen to us every week, please give me the chance to tell you the tale of why racing is the most exciting sport in the world.
I mean, you made me a believer, so I'm sure you can bring around a couple of people too.
Yeah, let's watch Kansas together. Let's all watch Kansas together. Let's do it. It's going to be a good race.
Exactly. All right. Well, we'll be back next week. New episodes every Tuesday at 6 a.m. on Spotify, YouTube, and YouTube Music. Until next time.
Take it easy.